You're listening to the ESO Network, your station for all things geek.
Hey there, it's episode 174 of the Soul Forge podcast.
Welcome to the Soul Forge, a place of silent mystery, quiet contemplation, and outright mayhem. Join your host, Sean Vanderloo, as he guides you through the adventures of living. Together, we'll talk about life and love, sex and dating, joy and heartache, memories and loss, and so much more. Don't worry, it's not nearly as pretentious as it sounds. Get ready for life, the universe, and everything on the Soul Forge.
Hey everybody, it's Sean, and guess what? I am currently delivering the mail. This is another walkabout, on the go, on the road podcast. Last time I did one of these was back in July or June I think. And guess what? I'm doing it again. Today, as I'm recording, what is today? It's October the 14th. This will, of course, be out on the 15th, which is tomorrow. So yeah, I'm right down to the wire here, recording a podcast for you. What am we talking about this time? It's going to be quite a bit of a flow of consciousness kind of show, because I had all kinds of different things on my mind, and I don't really feel like having a specific topic covered today. So it's just going to be a bunch of random things, almost like episode 113, the tactical mini episode, or the quick shots, where I did 4 or 5 2 or 3 minute little mini conversations all strung together. I haven't done one of those, I guess it's been more than a year, and I haven't actually recorded any quick shots or tactical minis since then. That was an experiment. Don't know that it failed exactly, but they may return, they may not. I just haven't felt the need or the desire to actually record something in a small amount. So here we go. Where do we start? Well, I guess first thing I can talk about is where are we? We are in Timmins, Ontario, Canada, the land that culture forgot, as I lovingly call it. I'm walking around delivering the mail. I've got headphones in, which is where the microphone is, so hopefully the sound quality is not horrible. It should be okay. It's not too windy today. It's actually a bit sunny. It's cool, but it's okay. And I'm doing maybe an illegal maneuver or something like that, prohibited. As of last week, we were informed we are no longer allowed to use electronic devices while we're delivering the mail. So that means you can't listen to podcasts, you can't listen to music, you can't talk on the phone unless you've come to a complete stop. So all these rules came into effect last week. Apparently they were always in effect, but now they're starting to crack down. So what am I doing? I'm flying in the face of that, saying, fuck you, I'm going to listen to podcasts no matter what, and try to stop me. And I think all of my coworkers pretty much feel the same way. We've been listening to our iPods or our phones or our MP3 players for years and years. Never had an incident. I guess their idea is that because you can't hear everything that's going on around you, it's possible to get hurt or have an accident, get run over, something like that. But that's never happened. Like I told them a couple weeks ago when they were giving us the meeting, I said, listen here, we've been delivering this way for thousands of years. We've had no trouble. We can't stop now. And so I said, what is the punishment if we are caught doing electronic things? And they said, well, you'll get a warning, you'll get a second warning, and it'll escalate from there. And then you'll have a 1-day suspension, a 2-day suspension, and go on and so forth. And I'm like, oh good, I could always use some time off. And we laughed and laughed. But anyway, nobody really agrees with this rule. We also have to wear vests, reflective vests at all times, which I get because that's pretty much worldwide now, at least Canada-wide, I think US-wide as well. Got to be safe, because we care about you guys. So you just can't have fun on your route. All you can do is deliver the mail in silence. And I'm not going with that. I've got podcasts to listen to, gang. So that's what I'm going to do, because I don't listen to podcasts at any other time other than when I'm walking and delivering the mail. Because when you're at home, you got family, you're doing things, you got TV to watch, books to read, chores to do. There's no time to listen to podcasts. So I got so many podcasts that I'm behind on now. Oh, there's the wind. Oh boy, I hope you can hear me okay. I'm going to try not to do too much editing on this episode, but I might have to. So we'll just see how it goes. So that's the first thing I wanted to bring up, how they're taking the fun of listening to podcasts away from me. And if I have to, I'll get a doctor's note to say that I need to listen to podcasts or something to alleviate depression, anxiety, racing thoughts, something. I'll get a doctor to make something up because I'm not going to stop. So there you have it. Okay, what else is going on? Let's see. Well, speaking of podcasts, I was thinking of different topics and different names for different podcasts, actually. And I wanted to come up with an entirely new podcast show that I was going to call Casually Geeky, and just talk about the same kinds of things that I talk about on the Rusted Robot.
The Rusted Robot Podcast. Think about it.
But you know what? I've already got 3 unsuccessful podcasts on the go. Do I really need a 4th one? Because if we take a look at it, I started Rusted Robot Podcast in 2014, and it started out pretty strong. Hundreds and hundreds of downloads per episode. And of course it all went away over time, and the format changed, and the co-host changed, and all that good stuff. But then, 3.5 years ago, we started up this one. We started the Soul Forge podcast that you're listening to right now. But between Soul Forge and Rusted Robot, Paul and I, we did 40 episodes of the Sci-Fi Waffle podcast, which was similar to Rusted Robot podcast, in which we talked about geeky things. And we did it bi-weekly, and we had fun doing it, but it wasn't very successful either. It didn't have many listeners, and so we put an end to that. And so then Soul Forge came along. I enjoy it. I love it. It's my self-therapy. It connects with people, although you wouldn't really know it because nobody emails me back. soulforgepodcast@gmail.com. That's all I want. I just want some feedback. Just any kind of feedback would be nice. Just some kind of acknowledgement that I'm touching the lives of somebody out there. And I've gotten that from time to time, but it's pretty friggin' rare. So there's that. And several months ago, Paul and I, along with good buddy Dan, started up the Cosmic Pizza podcast, and that's a bi-weekly podcast as well. Episode 9 came out today, and we have a lot of fun doing it. And of course, you all know Dan from this clip here.
Hello, I'm Daniel Peter Hitch, author of the Bubbles the Pirate children's book series and the Connected Worlds Chronicles. You're listening to the Soul Forge podcast. Keep forging your soul.
And also from his Temporal Trek podcast, where he got inspired by one of the Soul Forge episodes talking about how to start a podcast. So, very meta, a lot of fun. And today we're actually going to record after work. I think episode 10 or 11, maybe it's even 12, because we're always a few weeks ahead. And we're going to talk to Paul's friend Lee about Lee's top 10 favorite movies. So that should prove to be rather interesting. I looked at the list, and I don't think any of the 10 are on my list. So that'll be definitely kind of fun to talk about, get a different perspective on life and whatever. And of course, Paul and Lee and Dan are all British, so they have different life experiences and whatever. Pretty similar to Canada, but a lot different too, with pop culture and whatnot. And thinking about podcasts still, I was thinking about all the podcasts that I listen to and how to have a successful podcast. And what did I realize? Well, people like true crime podcasts. That is the most popular genre of show, and I think I should start a true crime podcast. What do you guys think? Would you listen to me talk about true crime? I don't know the first thing about it. Don't care about it. It's not my forte. It's not my thing. It doesn't matter to me. But hey, if I could get thousands of listeners like My Favorite Murder. I know that's Tracy's favorite podcast. You know Tracy from... Good day. All kinds of different episodes that we've done together. So, where was I? There was a person there that I had to say hi to. So, I've lost my train of thought. But anyway, true crime podcasts are the thing that everybody loves. And yeah, I don't know. I don't really want to do a true crime podcast, but maybe I should, because then I could get all kinds of listeners and direct them towards my other shows that I do. That would be fun. You know, hook them with the true crime, and then get them to fall in love with the sounds of my voice, and they would just want to listen to me everywhere I go. Do you think that's a possibility? Do you think that's a thing? I don't really know. So anyway, Soulforge, Rusted Robot, Cosmic Pizza Podcast. We don't have lots of listeners. Are we successful? Meh, what is success? Who knows? Are we having fun doing it? I love it. It's my favorite thing to do. And so, I guess in that regards, yeah, successful, because you're happy. And let's transition to another topic. Happiness. Okay, so I was talking to Heather, who you've heard on quite a few previous episodes of this podcast as well. In fact, she was the first guest back on episode 14, I think. And what was I saying? Oh man, it's hard to walk and talk and keep your train of thought. But Heather and I were talking about happiness and the year that is 2020. And it's been kind of brutal for everybody. Like, she's had a particularly hard year with all kinds of loss and whatnot that we won't get into right now. But she was saying, you know, Sean, this is probably one of the best years you've had in quite a long time. And I got to thinking, and anybody who's been following me for the last, say, 6 years since I started podcasting, or even the last 3 since I started Soulforge here, yeah, I think that's true. 2020 is probably one of my best years. And speaking of things that are the best, how's that for a segue? I'm going to play a promo for another podcast right here on the ESO network.
Transmission commencing.
This is Wookiee Radio. Translated for the Wookiee impaired. I like that Wookiee. Your hosts, Ken, Derek, and Mike, bring you the latest news and commentary from the far reaches of the galaxy.
Hold it. Hold it. I said hold it.
Subscribe today on iTunes and Stitcher.
I just assumed he's a Wookiee.
Start listening today, and remember,
the Force will be with you, always.
And how was that? Was that a good podcast promo? And since we're in promo mode, I'm going to play a podcast, not a podcast promo, but a promo for the ESO Patreon. Because if there's one thing podcasters like, it's support from listeners. And so here you go.
Everyone these days could use a little support, and your friends at the ESO Network are no different. With the ESO Network Patreon, the cool thing is when you help support us, it's you who will benefit. With 4 tiers starting for as little as 25 cents a week, you can listen to some of your favorite network podcasts early, hear exclusive content, maybe get some ESO swag, or even possibly take a shot at the geek seat. All you need to do is sign up at patreon.com/ESO Network.
So yeah, if you've got extra money and you want to support the ESO Network, you can do all that stuff by following the information in that promo. And there's all kinds of extra Patreon exclusive episodes and so on and so forth. So if you want to find those, you can listen to them, support the network, whatever else. Also, I have my own thing. You know, I've mentioned it before, and I hate talking about money and support and whatever, but it's a thing. It costs money to run a podcast, the hosting fees and the internet costs and whatever. So I'm just going to tell you, coffee.com/rustedsoul. There's a link on soulforgepodcast.com to get there, but it's ko-fi.com/rustedsoul. And it's the gimmick over there is that you just give us, all of us podcasters who have the coffee support thing, you just give us a coffee, and that supports us. And I think their minimum thing starts at $3. So if you want to just send $3 my way, that's how you do it. But you can buy more than one coffee at a time. I know that fans of the show and supporters have given me quite a bit at times, so that's always appreciated, and I just want to thank you all for doing that. And that's the end of the promos and the talking about money stuff that I can't stand talking about, but have to bring up occasionally because your support is appreciated. So anyway, 2020 has been a great year. Not for everybody. Lots of people have lost their jobs. The COVID, of course. Hello, puppy. I think that dog wants to eat my face off, so I'm glad they don't have mail today. And what else was I talking about? I was talking about the fact that 2020 has been good, and it's been my most successful year. And, you know, like, I worked throughout the entire pandemic, which means it's the worst pandemic ever because, you know, you'd like to have some time off. But no, I didn't get any time off, except for when I had holidays. But I couldn't go anywhere. But that's okay, because whatever. In fact, 2020 is the first year that I have not gone back to Sault Ste. Marie to visit my family. So that's kind of weird. But it's to be expected because of the crisis of the globe and whatever. So anyway, Heather was saying, yeah, it's a great year for you. You got to keep your job, and so I did that. And best part is I met Julie, who you heard on last week's episode. Julie's amazing, and I'm not just saying that. She is probably one of the best things that's ever happened to me. She's smart, she's funny, she's beautiful. She's normal, but she has just enough quirkiness in her personality to keep it interesting. We get along great. We have the same outlook on life, the same hopes and dreams. The only thing is, she doesn't like the geeky stuff that I like, but that's okay because we don't have to have everything in common. It's definitely not necessary for a successful relationship. In fact, I watch a lot of the shows that she loves, which are things that never in a million years did I think I would watch, such as 90 Day Fiancé, Love Island, and other weird TLC shows, such as My Big Fat Fabulous Life. So I'm getting a different perspective on life. Actually, turns out I don't mind these shows. Sometimes some of the things we watch, I feel like I'm losing brain cells, but that's even the case when I watch things that I like on my own. So anyway, back to Julie. Let me think here. She is my voice of reason. As many of you know, I'm a huge collector of nerd paraphernalia, geek junk, and about 3 or 4 years ago, I started selling it off because as I hit my 40s, I realized, okay, there's still a lot of life left, but do I really need all of these things to keep me happy? And of course, that was the case, and that was my coworker beeping at me in the mail truck. But anyway, no, I don't need things to define who I am and my personality. I don't need things to make me happy. I did before for years and years because there was something missing. What that was, I don't know, a certain amount of confidence maybe, whatever. So anyway, I've been slowly selling things off when I go to nerd conventions. And I've gotten rid of actually quite a few things. I still have a shit ton of stuff though, because I've been collecting since I was a teenager. So almost 30 years worth of stuff. Action figures, Hallmark ornaments, what else? Statues, busts, replica props. So many different things that every time I look into my totes, I'm like, oh, I forgot I even had that. So it's hard to keep track of everything I have. I spent a lot of money and time getting all this stuff, so I don't want to just give it away. So it's hard to part with all that stuff. So anyway, being the voice of reason, I told her all this, and so she keeps me on target.
Stay on target. We're too close. Stay on target.
Because it's hard to break habits of liking things for the last 3 decades, if not more. So the big thing that happened recently is that Playmobil, the company that makes kids' toys, came out with Back to the Future DeLorean with Doc and Marty figures and a bunch of accessories. And it's been reviewed all over the toy websites that I follow and stuff. And it's at Walmart right now. It's only $49.99, and I want to buy it and put it away because I have a feeling that it's going to go up in value. It may not everything does, but I kind of have a feeling that this is going to go up. And every time we go to Walmart, I'm like, oh, I should get that Back to the Future car, put it away. And she always tells me, no, you don't need it, you're trying to downsize. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it's going to be worth a lot of money in a few years. And she's like, okay, how many things have you put away that you think are going to be worth money in a few years? I'm like, oh yeah, good point. So I have not bought the Back to the Future car set, which is probably good. It's only $50, but we have limited room in the house, so I don't really need a bunch of extra stuff. So I guess that's smart. So yeah, so she's smart. She keeps me on target. She keeps me from blowing my money needlessly. Let's see. So yeah, I've been trying to get rid of all my things. I can't this year because all the cons have been closed, and there's like 2 or 3 that I've missed because they were canceled. Of course, because nobody wants to die from the COVID, right? No, of course not. So that's what's happening. And I've pretty much stopped buying everything. The only thing I haven't stopped are my Starships of the Month, which are supposed to come in at 2 times a month. But apparently they're out of stock in Canada. Go figure, right? So this thing won't scan, this stupid parcel. Come on, there you go. Did you hear that beep? That was a parcel being scanned for delivery. Oh boy, good times, guys. You're right behind the scenes here. Okay, so whenever they come back in stock, I'll get my Starships of the Month. I've already got like 65 of them. So, big fan of replica Starships. Don't want to get rid of that. So keep that. I got a nice shelf for them. They look great. They're sitting behind my computer, so when we Skype for Cosmo Pizza, the boys see it, and it's great. And what else can I tell you? I guess that's it. Oh, I do have a statue of Wonder Woman coming within probably the next month or so, because I ordered that a while ago, and I've been looking for a statue of Wonder Woman for a while. It's hard to find a good one because they look pretty cheesy, but this one is a white one. It looks like it's been carved out of marble, and it's like 4,000 years old. So that's cool, and it was relatively cheap, and it's small. It's only like 9 inches tall and 14 inches at the base or something. So not going to take up a lot of room, and it was pretty cheap. So that's what's coming in my Starships, and that's it, and everything else has got to go. Speaking of things that have to go, the U.S. election is coming up in, let's see, if this comes out on the 15th and the election's November 3rd, that's less than 3 weeks away. So hopefully the Americans get rid of old Trump-a-rooney, because he's a horrible human being. I thought he should have died when the COVID got him, and maybe that's not good to say, because as a decent human being, you don't want anybody to die, right? But he's a fucking asshole, and he's caused all kinds of turmoil around the world. So if he died, that wouldn't be a tragedy. The fact that he got the COVID is hilarious. Another funny thing, along with the Trump story, is that I've got a lot of Americans on my Facebook. Not people I've actually met in person, but people I've connected with through podcasting or toy sites. And it's fun to see the differences in opinions, because there are people that would be in my social circle, but various opinions. Kind of weird. There's actually only really one guy who's a avid, ardent Trump supporter, and no matter what he does, this one guy on Facebook is always defending him and saying how great he is, and I'm like, don't you see what's happening? And I don't know if he does or he doesn't care or whatever. I don't know him personally. He loves action figures, and he's a huge toy collector, probably more so than I am, and he loves Trump. But I think he's the only one on my Facebook that likes Trump. Everybody else doesn't and wants him to go. Let's see. Facebook groups. I am in a lot of podcast Facebook groups. And speaking of successful podcasts, let's see. Let's say I'm in maybe 15 different podcast groups where you share your links to your episodes, and hopefully it connects with people. That's not easy to do, because people on there are so focused on getting you to listen to their podcast, they don't care about your podcast. But every once in a while there's a listener who says, I've got a 3-hour drive ahead of me. Why don't you drop those podcast links so I have something to listen to for the next 3 hours? And then you look, and 3 hours later, there are like 400 people who have posted their podcast links. And even when you're just posting something else, like, hey, what kind of microphone should I get for my setup? You'll see 10 or 18 people who have posted links to their podcast, which has nothing to do with your post. So it can be annoying to be in those groups. And I think I need a social media secretary to sort through all that stuff, because to be successful, you have to interact like all day and all night, because a lot of the people on there say, hey, let's do a listen for listen. I'll listen to your podcast if you listen to my podcast. And I don't know how people have time for that. Maybe because of the COVID, nobody's at work and all they can do is listen to podcasts. But I don't have time for that. I can't just sit on Facebook going through everybody's thing and connecting with everybody and talking to everybody and building relationships with 1,000 different strangers just so they'll listen to my episodes, because I don't have time for that. And I guess I don't care enough. Like, I enjoy what I do, and I would love to have more listeners, but I'm not going to work 14 hours a day just to get 3 more listens, because, well, first of all, that's ridiculous, and it's exhausting. And then you have to do that on Facebook, and you have to be constantly on Twitter, and you should probably be doing things on YouTube and Twitch and all kinds of other different things. And I just don't want to. I just want people to like me for who I am. I don't want to have to work for it, and maybe that means I'm lazy. I don't know. But I think I put out a good quality product. At least I try to every week. I know some episodes are better than others, of course. And every once in a while, somebody will listen to a show and they'll say, wow, you really have a great voice for podcasting. And that makes me feel good. And I'm like, well, I wish other people would think the same thing and listen and subscribe and share the links. Maybe send an email once in a while, even though I say that every week. Nobody ever does, and it makes me feel like crap, because it feels like I'm just talking to myself, kind of like I am doing right now as I'm walking down the road delivering mail and talking to myself, you know. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Maybe I'll go start a true crime podcast. Probably not, because I don't care. Was there anything else that I wanted to talk about this week? There probably is. I know I have to do new promos for the 2 podcasts on the ESO network, Rusted Robot and Soul Forge, and I've been thinking about it. And so what happens is, like I played that guy's promo for his podcast on this episode at random. All the other podcasts are supposed to play my promo, and of course all the other promos for the other podcasts on the network. And then because you're listening to it, you're like, oh, that's an amazing promo. I should probably go check that out. I don't think my promos have been very successful because I think I've lost a third of my listeners since the pandemic hit, and maybe that's because people aren't going to work and they're not listening on their commute anymore. But I need to come up with a super awesome promo to get people interested in my words. So I was thinking something along the lines of the Soul Forge podcast. What is the Soul Forge? It's the podcast where we talk about life and living, sex, death, existential crisis, mental health, puppies, Star Trek, general pop culture, other things like that. We've interviewed writers, atheists, a white rapper from Australia, and a sex goddess from San Diego. If you have a story to tell or just want to listen to one, check out soulforgepodcast.com right here on the ESO network and wherever else fine podcasts are found. So something like that with a bit of soul forging in the background, like blacksmithing and stuff. And then I have to come up with something equally as entertaining and exciting for Rusted Robot. So we'll see what happens. They have to be out sometime in November. Probably should have worked on that last week when I was off and did absolutely nothing. But I didn't, because I did absolutely nothing except for renew my health card. So that was great. What else? Okay. So I was just interrupted by a phone call from my coworker. So I guess that's the end of the podcast. Do I have an and remember for you this week? And remember, do all the things that I always say. Share the links and all the things. Appreciate you all. Love you. Take care. Talk to you soon. And remember, only you can prevent forest fires. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Soul Forge podcast. Your support is greatly appreciated, and we hope you'll tune in again next time. Remember that you can visit soulforgepodcast.com for all of our social media links, and don't forget to share the show with everyone you know. The Soul Forge podcast is your best source for living your best life.
Think about it.
If you're loving this podcast, you should tell a friend about it.
Spread the word about podcasts you think they would enjoy. There's something for everyone, from entertainment and lifestyle
to news and politics
and more. Share it on social media. Believe it or not, some people don't know how great podcasts are,
or even how to find and listen to them.
You can help change that with a click. Tell your friends about your favorite podcast.
Thanks for spreading the word.
This has been a broadcast of the ESO Network. Be part of the crew and help support our shows by donating to our ESO Patreon or by shopping at the TeePublic store, which can all be found at www.esonetwork.com. The ESO Network, your station for all things geek.